That's right. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry I was a couple minutes late. I'd like to, thank you. Open the meeting for the zoning board of appeals on March 6th, 2023. Before we get to the couple of applications, our first selectman is here and needs to take care of some business. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi, John. Good to see you all. You know, that boardroom unfortunately has really terrible audio for those on by Zoom. So do you have a quorum? I can't see everyone. I can see two.
We do.
Okay. So I'm pleased to be here to conduct your election. I first of all want to thank Laura Edmonds for her, I think, 15 years of service on ZBA. So I would first of all take nominations for the role of chairman for the ensuing fiscal year. Yeah, actually not fiscal year, ensuing year. Do I have a nomination for chairman?
Nominate John Mahoney.
That's Luke.
Yes, Luke Tashin speaking. I nominate John Mahoney. He's been our
Okay,
secretary.
great. Is there a second?
It's Jessica Carden. I second.
Yes, thank you, Jessica. Any further nominations for chairman? Hearing none. All in favor of electing Luke, I'm sorry, not Luke, but John as chairman. Could you have a raise of hand since it's
Favor.
who else is on?
Chair, two in favor.
Okay, so that's unanimous.
Yes.
And do I have nominations for secretary?
I would nominate Luke Tashin for secretary.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Jessica Carden, I'll second.
Thank you. Any further nominations for secretary? Hearing none, all in favor of electing Luke as secretary? That seems unanimous as well.
Yes. Yes.
All right, thank you. I want to thank you all for your service to the town. This is the most mysterious body that someday I'll learn exactly what you do, but I really appreciate your service. And I see Dave Barucci there, so I guess you have an agenda to pick up on here. So thank you again for all your service, and it's good to be with you tonight. I'm going to drop off and let you conduct your meeting.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Okay, thanks, John. Thanks, Sarah.
This was mine. Here. Good evening, everybody. So the way the meeting works is that we'll call up your application, ask you to come up, state your name for the record, and then identify the property you're here to speak about, state your request for the board. Importantly, what is the hardship associated with your request? And remember that the hardship cannot be one of financial nature or personal preference. It needs to be associated with something unique about the property. After you go through your request, and perhaps during, the board will ask you questions. You'll certainly have a chance to respond. We'll ask for comments from members of the audience, either for or against, which you will also have a chance to respond to. And then at the end, once the board feels it has all the information it needs to make a decision, we'll go into executive session. And once we do that, we can take no further information from the audience or the applicant. There are 5 voting members on each application. It takes 4 affirmative votes for your variance to be granted. So with that, Sarah, I'd ask you to do roll call just for the record.
Okay, so John Mahoney.
Present.
Cynthia Dole.
Present.
Luke Tajian.
Present.
Rich Caratu.
Present.
Jessica Cardon.
Present.
And Christy Bond. Present.
Terrific. Thank you very much. first, application 83 Garish Lane, zoning variance upon application of David Rucci, Lampert to and Rucci, has authorized agent for Andrew and Mary Gray Alman, owners for a variance of that section 3.5.e.2 to allow an expansion to be 5 feet from the rear yard setback in lieu of 25 feet, and to allow the depth of the garage to be expanded and allow the finishing of the space in the existing garage in 1 acre zone at 83 Garrett Lane, map 32, block 20, lot 872.
Yeah, hi, good evening, David Rucci, as a representing the Gallmans, and also with us this evening is the architect Jack Brandon. I put in front of you the slides, which is what we will go through on the screen as well as in front of you. And essentially what we have is 1926 home that was built over on Garrett Lane. It sits pretty far back, about 350 feet back from the road. It's a rear lot. You can see it's got a Tudor-like architecture, Norman type architecture on it. And in the past, it has been granted a variance. And that's one of the things that we'll talk about in a little bit. But essentially what the applicant's doing, if you don't mind, Sarah, just starting to go through. So there's the sort of the garage in question that we're going to talk a little bit about this evening. What we're trying to do is essentially move the garage about 5 feet forward, fan in a little bit, just keep moving through, so that we can actually get cars parked in it. That's the front of the property showing the 350 feet sort of to the road. So there's not a lot of neighbors in and around this particular piece of property. In fact, the property itself, if you'll go to the next slide, please, page 5, you'll see that the property itself sits up against the nature center. And it's really sort of been buttonholed into this rear corner of the property. The existing garage, as you can see, is there. We are adding to the existing garage a couple of dormers, and we are adding a small mud room in the back, along with the laundry area on the property. It's going over the patio that's already there, so there's little disruption. We've heard from 2 different neighbors who are in support of the application, who are close to the property. The garage guards at the front, and the lords who are actually way back, sort of in the back corner of that property. You'll see by this map also how the property, one of the rationales and reasons this property was cited this way, meaning the home in and of itself, is you'll see that there's a wetlands line that almost runs right around the corner of this property, right where the pool is, along with a brook and a stream, and about an acre, a little bit more than an acre of wetlands sits in that back corner of the property. If you just move the slide,
David, do you have one that shows the existing footprint, the new footprint?
Yes, I do. It's not going to be in there. It's going to be, if you go to the next, page 7, the topography of the property, you'll see that's not showing. You'll see that the garage is already there, the house is already there. And if you just get back once again to 6, Luke, you'll see that, this is sort of a blow up. It's really hard to get. I've blown up a lot of these. I've taken some liberties with the survey just to blow them up so that I can show it to you. So it's not actually showing the entire survey right now. Although I do have the original surveys if you want to take a look at those as well. But you'll see the mudroom area is about 6 feet from the back of the part. It's about 165 square feet that we're adding to the back of the property. And it's a good place to add it to.
Is that where it says walk?
No, if you look. Sorry, yeah, right here. So here's this is where the laundry room is going to be. And then this is actually existing that garage to a certain extent. We are adding proposed dormers and we're moving it out about 5 feet.
So it's only moving forward in the front.
Correct. It's only moving forward in the front. And the only thing in the back that's being done is this patio, is this laundry room, which sort of just is going to be, snuck in between into this area on an existing patio grade right now. And that's about 165 square feet. If you move to the next, I just want to point out something here in the topography. I should have blown this one up as well. but you'll note that there's a drop off from the frame dwelling right here, about 5 or 6 feet. And you also see how the wetlands line really hugs up against the side of this property. And the reason why I mention that is because there's not really a heck of a lot you can do to this property as far as adding any sort of living space to it. Without coming in front of this board, unless you wanted to somehow go into the wetlands and get permission to do that. But that's obviously one of our hardships is the topography off the west of the site, as well as the wetlands in that particular area, and obviously the location of this house. And the house is really in the only place that it can go. And luckily, or what makes it I think compatible to the neighborhood in and of itself is everything behind this nature center. So this house being kind of pigeonholed back into this particular area really has zero effect on the neighboring properties because their neighboring property is just a nature center. And you'll see as we get to the back sort of the views that they can see both from the back of this property and from the nature center itself. And I just mentioned that because, you know, when you have these properties that are in and around sort of institutional uses, like the nature center, like St. Luke's, like the country school, wherever it happens to be, you know, it's really important for the institutional uses to respect the neighborhood and as well for the neighborhood, you know, residential to respect the institutional use. But I think there's more leeway in a residential structure because, you know, it's the other is public. You're essentially next to something public. Just move on, sorry. And here's the laundry room, a little bit better picture of this from the architectural perspective as to where that's going to sit on the back of the property. And I think we just keep moving. This is the back. This is essentially where it's going to go. And you can see there's some really nice dense screening in and above there. And even if there wasn't, like I said, that's where the nature center is. I mean, there's a path back there. I think, you know, it's not that close to the property, but it's path, trees, you know, you really can barely see this house from the nature center and vice versa, this house to the nature center. You can just move on. And then here's that little sort of bump out. You can see yeah, right there. Thank you, sir. And it just fits in nicely with the back of the property, and it really should have very little effect, if any, on obviously neighboring properties or on the setback itself, once again, based on the fact that it's right up against the side. So here's the garage again. Once again, this garage is there vis-a-vis a variance to begin with. Back in '97, there was a variance to allow this garage to sort of be rebuilt and connected to the house. There had been a previous variance prior to this where the owner in like the 60s had built something he wasn't supposed to build. He got a variance and they basically rebuilt it to something larger than it was supposed to be. And 3 years went by, so it actually became legally non-conforming. And then the next homeowner wanted to connect the garage, and a variance was given to connect that garage. And I'll get into a little bit later because I'm asking for a condition of that variance to actually be waived by this board.
David, is the total height of the garage in this thing, or you just meant dormers on the back?
In the front, there's going to be dormers. Just dormers on the front and then it's going to come out a little bit.
I thought there's gonna be dormers on the nature center side.
No, there's no dormer. Is it dormer? It's a shed dormer. Oh, sorry, there's a shed dormer. I was going to let the architect talk.
So is the building getting higher though, or is it the same height?
30 inches higher.
30 inches higher, which is allowable for actually, the dormers are not necessarily something you need a variance for. So that they could do as a,
So it's not gonna be a second story on it.
no, I mean, there's already a small second story above that right now.
Technically, is it a second story?
Well, it's, what's the height of it?
Yeah. The height of the ceiling.
Yeah, the garage.
Um,
Sorry, Jack Franson, the architect.
So they're allowed to go up in height without a variance, and since it's connected to the house, whether it's 1.5 stories or 2 stories, it's allowed as of right, so.
Well, the height's just relative though from the view from the nature center, that's what I was wondering.
Well, I'll show you when we get to that, because the nature center, you're not gonna see it. I mean, when I show you the pictures of the two, I don't think that would be as much a concern. I mean, it's a good question, but I don't think it's gonna be a concern when you see the actual photos.
Yeah, I think it's where I think, as you said, you get it away, the level of it.
Yeah,
As a condition to that, the prior variance, they could use the second floor. It only needed to be used for storage, right?
Correct, and I'll get into that.
We would need to waive that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'll get into the rationale behind it, the authority you have to do it and those, you know, fun legal things.
You just, while we're on the subject of dormers.
Yeah.
Since you're increasing the building square footage and the setback on the back, does that not require a variance?
No, it wouldn't require a variance because the building's already there. Right, so the building's already there, and it's not a height, if I was going higher in height than I was allowed to, I would.
But you're adding volume.
Yeah, you're in volume, so you need a
Right.
variance.
Yeah, but I don't need a variance because the volume's already there.
No, the volume's increasing, you're counting like cubic feet or something, it's increasing.
Your volume by adding the shed dormer, right? You're increasing space.
Remember, we had an application in early 2022 at Kimberly Place where it was determined that wasn't a requirement if you were just adding dormers to a non-conforming building, because you're only increasing the height volume. The footprint of the building is not changing, so that does not require a variance.
I think if you increase just the area in the setback, you do, whether on the first floor or the second floor.
No, it's only the expansion on the first floor. If you're increasing the height of a non-conforming building, you don't. We ruled that with the Kimberly Place application, they got to withdraw their application and go on a straight building permit, so.
I remember that application.
Yeah, I'm thinking you're also maybe thinking a little bit about, remember in some of these smaller zones, you have that rule where you have to build the second floor in, right? And that's where you guys get involved for that particular thing, when people ask for a variance on that, and you're increasing it within that setback. And that, you're absolutely right, you need a variance to do that, and we've had to do that before on some of these smaller lots, you know, on Harrison or Douglas or wherever it happens to be, where they're really close to the side there.
Right.
But this is a 2-acre zone, so they don't have that rule, this rule, that's not a rule in this zone.
Okay.
If you just go to the next page, please.
But you're saying because they're increasing the height 30 inches, they would?
No, not in this case. If they were doing that in a zone where you had that setback, you would have to do that. But this zone doesn't have that rule. That's in the lower zone, third B, A. And a half.
I think half.
And half, yeah, I think and half. This is the property line, essentially. This is where you can see this house is built. You can see, even in the winter here, you can see some pretty good screening on this particular piece of property, but you see how close it is to the stone wall in the back. This is the rear of the garage, and that gate, if you were to go through the gate, would sort of punch you out right to where the 165 square foot laundry room is coming out.
Is that stone wall the property line, or the property line that trees behind it?
That's pretty much the property line. It is only about 4 feet off the back to begin with. If you go to the next page. So here's the garage. You can see that the garage, technically right now it's not really being used as a garage, but one of the rationales behind that is because it doesn't quite fit the modern day car into this garage. If you can just kind of get through the next couple, I think they also show the same thing. Right, until we get to this, and we were just trying to show an example of how close this car really does get in. And this isn't even an SUV or anything of the type, but the garage is sort of underbuilt as far as the length of it goes. So that's one of the reasons we want to increase the 5 feet out into the front.
How long is the garage?
The existing garage is 19 feet.
19.
Yeah,
It was 19 up to 24.
we did there 24.
Yeah.
You do, and that's usually what I think the standardized garage is today. 24 by 24, something like that. There's just another question showing how kind of tight it is in the front as well. And then we did just sort of a little measurement as to kind of what we have left. It's about 2 3/4 inches or so in there. And it's been really difficult to get people in and out. It's difficult to get kids in and out of car seats and the whole leg. So what ends up happening with the Gollums is they leave the cars outside.
Well,
Most of
since
the
the
time.
building's not any longer though, it's still staying 3 bays, right?
3 days, yes, it's just coming forward.
So it's not really gonna help a lot with that. It's
Yes, it's gonna add depth to it. It's gonna go from 19 feet to 25 feet.
I'm saying this is the width.
Not width, it's gonna go depth. That's the depth piece right there, not the width piece.
Maybe we're using definitely like drawing. So right now, if you look back to
So if you look at that now, you see how it's like very close to the edges there?
Yeah, so the front of the car to the back edge there, that's 19 feet about.
Yeah,
And you gotta bump it out. You
Five-
want it
5 feet.
Yeah, to 24.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you're saying.
I think you're saying it's too narrow for the cars too.
No, I did. I made the point that just trying to get in and out, kids in and out, but we're not doing that. It's just gonna be, yeah,
Okay, that's what's.
yes, yeah. And then the garage, this is sort of your entryway into the garage. This is the staircase that goes up above. And then the second is just showing sort of what this garage has in the top floor of it now, unfinished, uninsulated. It's been an issue for a number of reasons, just the fact that it's not even really good storage when it's uninsulated like that. You can't really keep glass up there. It's hard to keep liquids up there, just based on it being cold. So that's been a challenge for them as well. Notwithstanding that, that's not really the reason why we want to have it finished off, but it's just something to add to it. And the other thing with the garage I wanted to mention is, you know, based on what's been happening in over the last, whatever, 6 or 7 years with, you know, cars being stolen out of driveways, et cetera, it's something that these people, that the clients were really interested in trying to get these things into the garage and not having them outside the garage.
They don't even keep the car. Like every car that's stolen in town.
300.
Yeah, must be very big. If it's their break, their car is stolen.
Well, I mean, I don't know, just let me know. All right, this is the dormers that are gonna go on the front of the property. And then this is showing the next page, just sort of the way the garage is gonna be extended. We can just sort of move through these. I can let Jack talk a little bit about Jack Friends, talk about the architecture if you want. If you want to just go to the 31. So these are the neighboring properties. We talked a little bit about this and you know, how close people are or not, right? So you can see where the garage sits. You can see that the closest part of the nature center is about 197 feet away. There's about 330 feet away on one side. We got 185 feet on Garish, 248, 412, 304. I mean, multiple different distances away, multiple setbacks away. And if you can also see the screening that almost exists today, as far as the trees that are there, very mature trees.
On the picture you showed of the mudroom location.
Yes.
The laundry, is that, those hemlock trees, are they on their property or around the nature center?
They're on the client's property. To keep moving. So here's a picture sort of through the trees from that back wall to the nature center building. Okay, this is in the winter, obviously it gets more dense in the summer. And you know, the nature center in this particular area, it's their parking lot. It's not really anywhere that anyone's enjoying anything in that particular area, but it's their parking lot. Go to the next one, please. And this is from the nature center, what they see. You can sort of see the house in the middle there on the white. And once again, like I said, when the stuff all comes in and out, it's gonna be very difficult to see. Keep moving. So here's another picture from, I guess, the closest trail to this house. And it doesn't really even look at the garage. It's looking at sort of the back of the house already. And you can see that trail that exists there and a drainage. And then this is from the parking lot itself to, I mean, really the garbage cans have the best view there. And then this is the screening on the side. It's pretty dense on the side to the closest neighbor, the grass guards. Just move one more picture up. Please, you'll see this is looking the other way. Again, this screening, once again, it's a lot of screening on that side. And, you know, the neighbor, like I said, the neighbor who's to the left of the screening is in support of it. He sent an email in. And I talked to the Lord who live up Weed Street, actually, who are on the back corner, who asked about the application. And I talked to him about it, like, yeah, we're fine with it. So long as there's no building over by the wetland. And I said, no, we're just doing a little bump out of the back. So getting to the condition itself, I just want to talk a little bit about that because we're asking for that condition to be waived. This board obviously has the ability to put conditions on as well as to have the ability to take conditions off. And the town planner in her memo indicated that, you know, when you're looking at waiving the 1997, we should consider whether, you know, waiving is the spirit of why it was granted initially. And whether or not, you know, that was a reason why they actually allowed that building to happen. It's unclear from actually the minutes and from the 1997 variance, whether or not that really was a condition, whether the board sat here like you do on lots of different occasions and say, well, we'll allow it to happen with the condition, but it's sort of devoid of that because, and the reason I say that is because the application itself for 1997 specifically said in it, we're not going to finish the second floor. You know, we're going to use it, it's going to just be for storage. And I think back in 1997, I mean, you know, not a lot of people were finishing off second floors of garages like they do today for living space. So it's unclear whether that was something that was dependent on the variance itself. I mean, the structure was kind of already there to begin with, albeit it was there and it was illegally there, at least in the minds of the variance people, because someone had rebuilt it, not the 97 people actually before that. So our initial position is that this is not necessarily something that was dependent on the variance, that the variance in and of itself would have been granted. And if they really didn't want the second floor, they would have said no second floor. They wouldn't have said, oh, you can have a second floor, but you, it has to be storage only. That's just the way that I look at it. We weren't there. It doesn't have in the minutes, even though the minutes are a little bit better from back then, because they talk about like what they, you know, what was said. It doesn't say anything about that. They essentially just took what the architect had said at the time and said, fine, we're gonna have a condition that it's not insulated and not second story.
No, but it's gonna blend in a lot better from the nature center if the cedar shingles on the back, painted white that high.
For the back of dormers, yeah, I mean, all I would say about the nature center is that the part that you're looking at is the parking lot.
No, if you're looking across from there, right now it's gonna blend in because it's, you know, fair cedar shingles, the proposed one the back's finished up there, it's gonna be white painted.
I mean, I think from the picture, it's very difficult to see that in and of itself anyway, from where you are right now. And I would also say that based on the fact that the nature, I mean, I don't know how many people are sitting out there looking at Garrick's Lane. I mean, it's not necessarily like, oh my gosh, this is a great vista that we're looking at. We're looking up across the mountain from the nature center, and we're seeing all these beautiful houses, or we're seeing X, Y, and Z. Yeah, but I don't think you see anything anyway based on the screening, which is why I took the pictures of the screening. That's my only point. And also for an institutional use in this zone, I mean, you're expected to see residences. It's not, you don't generally give deference to an institutional use in a residential zone.
But it's an existing use, this is
And we have an existing use too.
yeah, it's a very new variance to increase non-conforming.
Well, we're not, remember, the dormers are allowable.
I know, the rest of it.
The dormers are allowed, but we're not at, what we are asking for is that the condition get waived. For the second story.
Yeah, and when their condition not waived, you're not gonna put the dormers.
Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know that. I mean, it still would be a nice look. And it's not necessarily something that we, you know, it's gonna make the house look better with the dormers in and of itself.
Well, I'm sorry, but just to be clear, on the back side, there's the shed dormer, right? On the front side, there are dormers above the extension, 5-foot bump out, correct?
Correct.
And so and the bump out is as of right?
No, the bump out in the front is not as of right. The dormers are as of right.
Okay, so the three asks then are the bump out, the laundry room, and removing the 97 contingency
Condition.
or condition.
Right. And just to get back to sort of my line that I was talking about before, you know, if it was dependent, meaning that the zoning board sat here and they said, you know what, we'll allow them to build the second floor, provided that they don't use it for storage. I mean, they didn't say that, but even if it was, you can still get that condition waived later on. Like I can still come to you, and even if it said that specifically, it's dependent on this. I can come to this board and I can say, you know what, even though they said it's dependent, I'm asking this board to waive it so long as I have hardship. I still have to prove hardship, and that's one of the things the town planner said. And the hardship would be in this particular case, even though I don't necessarily think that's what happened, but if it was. The hardship would be that if you try to build any more living space on this property, sort of to the west. That's where you have the topography and the wetlands, right? You have a space here that's already there. I mean, you're not doing anything more to a space that's already previously existing. You're not asking to build anything larger than that for living space itself. Right? So I think that the commission would be the board would be well within their rights to look at, number one, you know what, we don't think it was conditioned, we don't think it was dependent on that. We think we can, we're comfortable waiving the condition, that's number one. Or in the alternative, if you feel like, oh yeah, I think that was absolutely something that the ZBA wanted, you're able to waive it years later, just based on the fact that there's still a hardship. So if I came to you today and I said, and let's say there's no garage there at all. And I came to you and I said, listen, this house is really pigeonholed back here. We have no garage. Or we have no living space on, it's a quirky home in the sense also that it's just different architecture wise. And I can let Jack Francis talk a little bit about that. But if I came to you today and I said, listen, we'd like to put a 2-car garage in, and it's going to have to go towards the setback. And you say, well, what's your hardship? I said, well, I can't really build on the other side. Because I have the wetlands and I have the topography issue, and I don't want to bring a new driveway all the way around to the side anyway. I don't want to create that sort of an issue. I mean, I think the board would look at that and be like, all right, well, there is a hardship. And they may or may not agree with it, and may or not grant it, but it's not unreasonable to bring that to this board.
Even if there's a hardship, still have to be required from a given reason to use the property. I mean, there's plenty of times we've granted variances for garages and the top are unfinished.
And the what?
And we've said the top to be unfinished. I can think of cases we've done that.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that, but it's kind of a weird condition to put on something because that use is allowable. Like whether it's living use or whether it's storage use, they're both allowable in the zone. So to kind of put a condition on it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, but I think that what ends up happening in the cases that Luke is suggesting, and I recall as well, is that somebody comes and says, we need a garage, right? We only have a 1-car, we need a 2-car, whatever it may be. And so grant a variance for the garage. And we'll have storage up above. That's different from saying, look, what I really want to do is expand the house. I want an in-law apartment or whatever it may be up there. And that's why in certain cases, I think we've said, okay, fine. With the garage, we understand that, but we're not, you're trying to get a garage, not kind of rebuild the house.
Correct, because the garage, generally, this board, I don't want to say it's a precedent, we feel like a 2-car garage is like a reason necessary was indicated. You need your hardship, which you have here. Then you also need to be essentially one step before the zoning being taken, like it has to be necessary use of the property, and it's having an in-law apartment, a finished space above the garage necessary, as necessary as having 2 cars. It's kind of where the line is. And that's why I'm saying that I don't see it as necessarily something they wouldn't have thought of when they put this condition on it, especially because I think the view from the nature center of the wooden roof versus the white shed dormer that high up is going to be different.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that rationale. But I don't agree with you that that's what they were thinking about at the time. I mean, if you're going to allow them to have the space anyway, let them have, there's no reason to put a condition on it because both those, I mean, I would understand that if you were allowing a 2-car garage and you were in the B residence zone where the properties were really, really close to each other. And you're like, listen, I don't want you to put a bunch of windows over there and you're looking right into your neighbor's backyard or whatever. Like, I get that. That makes sense to me, but that's not what's happening here at all. I mean, give deference to if the nature center was concerned about it, they should likely have been here and said, listen, we don't want to see a shed roof. It just seems to me that's way beyond there.
It's Rich Carey. David, what is the intended use of the 2nd floor now?
So they want to make it living space. All the equipment that you saw in the garage are just going to go to the 2nd floor. So, no, there's going to be no bathroom. There's no bathroom. No, there's no bathroom.
Did I read in here, there's no attic or basement in this house, or is there?
Right, so let me have Jack talk a little bit about the architecture while.
Because it's probably my fault while we're here. Because I got to know Mary Gray. I'm Jack Franson, architect. My offices are 95 Harbor Road in Southport, Connecticut. So I was saying, I got to meet Mary Gray because she wanted to basically redo the kitchen and the powder room, and then we're walking around the house and she was showing me a few other things that she didn't really like and didn't understand why they were that way. And I explained to her on the survey, well, these things are all, you know, they're all like really close to the property line. But if you do want to try to do these things, you can go and ask and you've got nothing to lose, because they could say no, but there are a couple things that the original architect didn't incorporate into the house. And he was a very well-known architect in his day. His name was Frank Forster. And he was trained at Cooper Union. And he built all over the United States. As far as I know, he only built 3 homes in New Canaan. I don't know if the other 2 still exist. I know of a house that he did in Wilson Point. There was one in Fairfield that was torn down, but he built in Detroit. I think he built on Long Island, and he built in this, I think in the real estate listings, it said English country style, but it was really Normandy style architecture. And one of the features of that is this 1.5 story look. So he went to great lengths to not have it look like 2 stories. So all the roof lines are low. And so we're struggling to try to create space so we don't have to change the front of the house where it's all these little dormers sitting on the shingle roof. When Robert Dean did the work on the back, it is 2 stories. And you can already see the painted shingles. If you don't want to see painted shingles, we can leave them natural and leave the wood natural on the back if that's really important. I don't really think it is, because it's just the 2 houses next door are really far forward and the nature center's in the back. The closest part of that property, I think, is the parking lot. And then there's a wing too. But your remark is the basement, there's no headroom there, or some parts of the house are just on a slab. And because of that 1.5 story look, there's no attic. So there's no place to store stuff. So it really, I was talking to David earlier, how New Canaan has some zoning that allows you to try to save historic modern houses. I don't believe there's anything for a house like this, but it's really something you should consider because it's a real treasure. And I
That's
think,
something we always consider.
I think it's a really important house and important architect. And anyway, Forster, when he got older, he built himself a home in Killingsworth, and now it's actually a state park, his residence. And anyway, I think what we're trying to do here is put this house on an equal footing with more up-to-date houses that are getting built today with some modest conveniences, and I think it's a reasonable request.
Can you feel?
Is the one that, so I'm looking at page 2, the front of the house. And to me, it looks like there's currently 3 roof lines, 3 elevations.
Yeah.
Are there 3? And so with the new elevation, would it be equal to the existing that house right next to it, or is it equal to this version right here? This is lower, right?
What you can't see, yeah, so the low eave line of the garage will stay at the same height. The ridge goes 30 inches higher, just because the depth increases and we're keeping the pitch the same as it is. What you can't see is that on the left side of that gable, there's a dormer that's what we're mimicking on the garage. The dormers on the right side of the front entry have 1 window, and the dormer on the left side of that other mast that sticks out on the left has 2 windows, and it's the type of dormer that we're putting on the garage.
So is the garage gonna be lower than the existing requirement still?
Yeah, it's still lower, yeah.
The dormers are gonna line up with those two dormers in the front?
Yes, they'll be the same elevation. And I did speak to Mr. Grossbart personally, the neighbor who's on the right side. And I explained all that to him, because that was his only concern is how much higher is it gonna be, what's it gonna look like? And he was very happy.
So we'd be comfortable leaving the shingles on the back naturally, so.
Yeah, not painting it, I think that would be fine.
Jessica, do you have any questions or comments?
I mean, I still have reservations, based on just the general hardship, but also more to Luke's prior point, the use of the property. So yeah, I'm not quite fully resolved on that.
By the use of the property, do you mean the use of the second story above the garage?
No, just in general, even expanding the garage, because they do have essentially a functional garage, even if, you know, I don't know what else they're trying to accommodate, maybe perhaps a suburban, but you know, that's more, I guess, my concern right now, along with the dormers.
I'm okay probably on the distance coming forward. And I understand that if they wanted the pitch the same to match the architecture, they're gonna have to come up 30 inches. Is it a reasonable use or not to finish the second floor or not? I don't.
Yeah.
Or necessary use, I don't know, but the roof is gonna have to come up 30 inches anyway, the way I look at it, to make the garage 5 feet.
Right.
Come up 5 more in the front, the architect said they're also gonna get the wrong pitch for the style house. So I think the question then becomes putting the dormers on the garage, which is necessary to make a living space, because otherwise with the pitch of the roof, you're not gonna have conforming living space, except I guess right in the middle of it.
Could I just say one more thing about the garage on the lower level, like, because I have grandchildren now. If those garage doors are closed and it's raining or snowing, you can't walk behind a car to get to the next car with car seat.
Yeah, I feel
So
like,
it's a little different than when it was built in 1926.
Yeah, and Rich character, yeah, I mean, I feel, I don't have a problem right now with making the garage in the front to accommodate a safe space. I mean, it is common for a 24-foot garage.
Yeah, I think-
That doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I think the dormers, they don't bother me, living space as long as it's legal, doesn't bother me. Maybe we could talk a little bit, just the bump out in the back, like what's the hardship for the bump out?
There's
One
no,
back.
you're talking about.
For the laundry room?
The laundry, yeah, because we're bumping out right, so we're going more non-conforming to the property.
Do you have-
The bump out in the back,
electronic
like
version,
what would
you
be the hardship?
show it, it's the hybrid meeting,
For that.
so you have to be able to show it on the phone.
Let's-
Oh, okay.
Let's do this just for a second before we come back and get into a deeper discussion. I wanted just to ask if you're at a good breaking point to ask, just for the record, is there anybody who wants to speak in for or opposed to the application?
well, we should let them finish their presentation.
That's why I asked if you're at a breaking point. So, because we're now jumping in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy, yes, go ahead, we can ask that and we can answer questions, I think we're through the application now itself.
Can I say something? Or not?
Yes.
So, hi, I'm Mary Gray, and,
Mary Gray, could you please?
Yeah.
Mary, just come.
yes, so
Just for the record, you're the owner.
I'm the owner,
Okay.
Mary Gray Coleman, and my husband Andrew, and, the main reason why I want this laundry room is because unfortunately you can't, I guess, see the picture of our current laundry room, but it's a closet. It's very small and, it's right next to our daughter's room. And, we moved here when she was, about a year old, and it's impacted her sleep. a lot, because she takes naps and goes to bed, and it's made it hard for her to sleep. And so because of that, we realized, well, we really need a separate laundry space so that she's not hearing the bang. And we bought a new laundry machine too, and it didn't make any difference. And like she'll rock, it's just a whole thing. So we really wanted to have a little laundry room, and this really seemed like the only place it could go, based on the wetlands. And we also thought it would just be kind of, it would just slip in, right now it's where we keep our grill. So it's just this little place of our existing patio that the prior owner put in. And we just thought, okay, we could just put it there. And then it kind of just looks like it was always part of the house. And we want to, you know, just make it look again, like it always was there, that it's almost like a little garden shed room. So just very non-discreet. And then with the garage, we basically feel that it's a shed, unfortunately. We can't keep, if we put bottles in there tonight, they could, or when it freezes, they could explode. And that's happened, glass goes everywhere. We just keep our kids' toys in there and rakes and, you know, so it's been, so part of why we wanted to do this is because we wanted it to be also a place we could keep our cars and it wouldn't be cold or too hot. And then the upstairs space, we, you know, we're just thinking maybe it'd be like a playroom for our kids. So it's not, you know, we're not putting a bathroom in, and we're not, it's really just, and then with the dormers, it's just because as you can see, you can't really stand in there right now. You have to literally just like walk down the middle. So the idea of the dormers just so that you could actually, like, our kids could actually like stand and play and we could stand next to them. So we've put a lot of thought into this. We are the 5th owner of this house in the past 20 years. I think a lot of people have come on because some of these things have been a challenge. And we love this house. We found out who the original architect was, and we are very committed to this house. We want to live there forever. So we're just trying to add a couple of little things so that we can, you know, it can be a little bit more livable for us, that's all. But, and we're trying to be really thoughtful with, you know, with Jack.
Yeah, I just, to reiterate, everything we're doing is either on top of existing patio, existing driveway, or on top of a roof that's already there.
Yeah.
And the reason why we put the laundry where it is somewhat dictated by the internal logic of the house, because the kitchen is right there next to it, and the mudroom, and also in the summer, when they're using pool, the towels and stuff will come right into the laundry versus having to traverse the staircase.
Also, it's actually one of the few places that wouldn't impact the front of the house, which is the historical part, which is the charm of the house. The back of the house has been renovated and changed, but the front is what people see and they're like, wow, this looks like a little storybook house. And we don't want to ever change that. And even adding on with the changes we want to do to the garage, we think will go more with the original architecture of the house than as it is now. With the dormers and raising the ceiling height a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody online or in the room to help speak in favor of the application?
No.
Okay, and anybody opposed, so we'll take it as no, so thank you.
Is there any other questions though? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do, be sure that you've had a chance to chime in if you have anything, Cynthia, that.
I have no questions. I have to say that, you know, based on the home is charming, and I had the opportunity to walk around the property. And, you know, really got a good view, I should say, or not a good view of the nature center. I don't feel that there would be any negative impact if we were to do dormers in the back. I'm okay with bumping out the front of the garage to 5 feet. It looks like a lot of thought has gone into preserving the charm of the facade. So I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Anything else from you, Christie? or-
Yeah, I just have one more question on page 5. The squares that are going around the pool, is that the stone wall?
Yeah, it's sort of a hex, like almost like a piece of an octagon. Yeah, it's an angle, is that what you're talking about?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Stepping.
I think those might be just stepping stones.
Oh, those are
Kind of
stepping
back.
stones. I'm talking about
Yeah,
those.
that's the pathway.
That's the pathway.
with grass in between, I think.
Okay. So that wall we saw is probably behind,
That wall more behind the,
right there.
yeah, right there,
Okay.
exactly.
That's the one that showed up in that earlier photo.
So you're right. I think Mr. Cashin said that wall is on the property line,
Right,
for sure.
okay.
Is the height of the ceiling for the car parked going up, into the first floor garage?
Yeah, it's same height. Otherwise, we'd have to have more stairs.
Is the total height behind, that's what I was wondering, so what,
Yeah.
a 7-foot ceiling now, or 8 foot, what's the ceiling in there?
I think it's probably, for garage doors to open it, almost have to be 8 feet. So it's probably 8 to 8.5 feet, because it's standard for garage doors. But we're not raising that floor, it's staying the same.
I was wondering.
Well, I agree with Cynthia. I mean, I really like that you've not changed the line of the home. You kept the existing architecture, you carried the theme of the dormers through on the front of the house. And the fact that there's no other storage, there's no attic, there's no basement, or there's not functional storage. I imagine you'd want to go there in the dead of winter and go through some boxes or photo albums or get your Christmas decorations, and I wouldn't want to do it in the freezing cold, so.
Okay, does the board have enough information to go into executive session?
So you would just be close it and then you do the next application before you would vote on it.
No, we always.
We vote, yeah, we vote. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if Jeff's got any other questions, because I know she.
Yeah, Jessica, is there anything else?
No.
Yeah, Rich, here, just one other question, and I know I knew this, but I just want to make sure we're good. But how many feet is the bump out of the back again? Zero, right?
0.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure, yeah.
So before we go into an executive session and you can't talk, these are the things that would be significant to my decision. That if you, from where the lawn, I just want to make sure in case someone has a problem, because I want to go into executive session and we will not be able to discuss things.
Understood. Thank you.
The screening on the laundry room, those hemlock trees or whatever they were. That you maintain, and we put in a condition that to be screening, you know, similar to what there is now. If it, you know.
But only to the extent that it's on their property, right?
Well, yeah, because that's on their property, on the laundry room.
We're willing to add additional screening. We've actually thought about it, so we're open to that for sure.
On the garage, I think I'm saying, it might be pronounced wrong, on the garage side. That the screening we have,
On the garage side,
on the
yeah.
garage side, the right.
We both have screening.
On the right side, yeah.
We have screening and they have screening.
Is that the east on thing or what direction is that? There's no arrow.
That should be to the.
That the shingles on the back, on the dormer level, remain consistent with the roof tiles. You know, so.
The dormers or the shingles?
The dormers. And the roof, you know, that stays natural.
For Jesus.
Yeah. No problem.
Okay, yeah.
And that did not be forming on the second floor for the center. I don't know how you lost.
I'm sorry, what did
Did not be forming on the second floor.
Right, yeah, I was gonna suggest that, yeah.
So, I mean, I just wanted to say those things. I don't want to go into executive session and start discussing things in case someone.
Well, let's just be clear, I mean, I guess we don't care about heat, I just wanna make sure.
No.
If you need plumbing, you
Not
need,
for, yeah, but I
We
mean,
know that.
no bad.
no bad.
That's fine.
Yeah, if you need.
You may need plumbing, whatever you need.
Well, and also, I mean, like a sink, like sometimes you have like an arts and craft room up there, you may want to sink, but what you're really talking about is the bathroom.
No bad.
Correct.
Not just to confirm that.
Right.
Just-
Yeah.
Okay.
And my view would be to be a hardship based on it preserving a historical structure. You all agree that it's not a per se reason that's consistent with the plan of conservation and development in town. And that there, 1 acre of the lot is wetlands and nowhere else to build. We're staying under the coverage.
We're still in the coverage by a couple thousand.
Yeah, you only get a third of the building coverage, so they're way under the building coverage.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 3.6 acre piece of property in a 2 acre zone.
So,
Everyone is that.
I understand. Yep, and I'm Rich Carrigan, similar, I thought about the bump out, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the bump out in the front with the cars, I mean, it makes sense. I think from the nature center point of view, as was stated, if they had an issue, they would have been here. I'm sure that they are very vocal, but I don't think they would, it's the parking lot, I think it's probably an improvement. So, yeah, I would be okay.
Okay. Anything else from you, Christie? Okay. Jessica, you okay going into business session?
Yes, that's fine.
Terrific. So, Christie, if you would sit out for this, okay? You don't have to leave or anything, but. Okay, so any further discussion, or would somebody like to make a motion?
Do you have the conditions fully decided on?
No,
Or you-
No, somebody has to make a motion with the condition.
So I would just caution with the condition for the shingles or the dormers. I'm not sure if conditioning something that they're allowed to do as of right is necessarily the cleanest way to go about doing this. I understand the concern, but I don't know if you have the right to condition something that's allowed as of right.
we have the right to say they're not 30 inches.
No, it's within the height requirement. They could
But
bump
then
it up.
they're not enlarging in the front. It's all tied together,
No, but-
you just say no.
Right, but you say we can't put a condition on something that they have a right.
Yes, they have a right to put that shed dormer in the back, but so you're telling them that they have to put a certain type of shingle on something that they're allowed to do as of right. If they were only doing that and that permit was just coming to us, we'd be signing off on it, not caring what color the shingle is.
Okay, but then I asked the question, why do we have the right then to put a condition that they can't put a bathroom on the second floor when they have a?
Because you're waiving,
Oh, that exists. Okay.
so I mean, just something to consider.
Thank you.
Yep, okay.
We will consider it.
Voting that way.
Well, you can't vote without. a-
No, well, we do all kinds of say whatever.
They don't seem like to have a problem with it, so
I mean, I don't,
you're okay.
personally, I'm okay
I'm okay.
with the color. It doesn't, based on the photographs and having walked out there, I think it's not gonna add that much. And yeah, exactly. But it's not a big issue for me. I understand. I
I'm
respect
concerned with it, and it
it.
makes sense to me why they would have put the condition on the first one, that'd be unfinished. Because then it was, a natural roof off back there, it's gonna look bigger, but on the other side is a finished space, and it's consistent with us waiving conditions.
Well, my thought is that the reason they probably did that is they were frustrated that somebody put a building in without approval or did it bigger, and so they said, okay, fine, we'll let you keep it, but we're not gonna let you create a living space out of it.
I mean, look at your opinion that white, that natural looks better than white. If you think of both, more people may like the
I'm not
white,
saying what looks better, I'm saying what would be more noticeable, if it's a higher structure looking living center.
brown or white, what would it be? I don't know. I mean, it's a cosmetic.
But
But
it's
that's,
consistent with what the roof is now, which is
what color is it? When
what now.
It's wood, but
okay, well, that's a valid.
I think it's all related to waiving that first condition.
All right,
And
I
that's-
can take that point.
Because now it's like the roof stays, even it's coming out, it's like what?
well, so. Again, I'm just on page 11 of the presentation, you can see how much is gonna be added here.
Correct.
Right, this is the area that you're actually have to have.
And I figure out.
I don't. I think we'll let it. And they don't seem to care, so. I mean, but dealing with something that's not perfect.
I don't have a problem with it being white.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either, but
I don't think it's gonna make that big of a difference, from, you know, the perspective of looking at it even from the nature center, because I looked at it from the nature center, you really can't see. You see the back of the house more than the garage, you
well,
know, it's.
yeah, it seems like the three of us may not have an issue. We should ask.
We can ask.
Oh,
No, we can ask Jeff.
Just it, yeah.
Yeah, we can ask Gus.
Because that he's the fancy to vote, he may vote
Right.
out, but then they get. You know. better work. Do you have a view?
I personally don't have an issue with the dormer. I'm a little uncomfortable with the set off, but you know, they clearly have some hardships with the wetlands. And they do have quite a bit of screening, which, you know, and, you know, I can wrap my head around that. But because there really isn't a coverage issue, I don't have an issue with the dormer.
And you don't care about the color?
I
Okay,
don't think it's something we would normally have a right to weigh in on.
you think we would, Jessica?
No, I think literally we're just looking at the set off request and that's that.
Okay,
Okay, so it's up to you.
no, I mean, we have, it's up to the board, so I guess,
No, I'm not about those.
no one, we need a motion.
Oh,
We don't have a motion yet.
can I motion?
Yeah, you can motion.
Okay, I'd like the motion. We go to a vote, and my conditions would be, that the, no bathroom is allowed on the second floor. However, it does not exclude any type of plumbing that would be needed for heat, you know, or sink or no toilet, no bathroom as legally defined.
And anything else? And so what's the hardship?
The hardship is 1 acre of wetlands on the property. And as was stated before, the owners are doing a good job of preserving the historical look of the front of the house.
And any other conditions?
I think we spoke about,
Well, you gotta make the.
yeah,
part of your motion.
no, the motion would be that the screening would remain.
And which screening on which side?
I guess it's the Garrish Lane side, right? On the,
No, the. Here, which side? This is Garish Lane.
yeah, no, I'm sorry, on the,
I have it up on the screen as well.
yeah, on the right, looking at it on the right side.
Okay, so I believe that.
I think it is the
East.
And the screening of the laundry room.
And the screening of the laundry room. Correct.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
I'll second. Okay, Jessica, would you like to start the voting?
Sure, Cardin in favor.
Lou?
That's in favor.
Carriage in favor.
Mahoney in favor.
Dublin in favor.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. David, thank you. I know you killed the tree, but.
Yeah.
Well, last time Luke was like, they're too small.
Yeah.
It was, I. They said the same thing at
They do better than in South, smaller the better.
That's screening trees. Thank you. I like it. I like it. Look, really well put together.
Yeah, no, it is.
What's that thing?
Yeah. Good evening. Thank you.
That's. Yeah, I think fine.
All right. We do. So next item on the agenda is 11 Parish Lane. Zoning variance upon application of Dan Radman Architect, authorized agent for Sean Hurley, owner, for a variance of section 3.5.B.1 to allow relief from total building coverage on this non-conforming lot. This lot is 1.133 acres in a 2-acre zone. Based on current zoning regulations, total allowable building coverage is 3,717 square feet for 1.133 acre lot. You're proposing a garage addition that would create a total building coverage of 4,525 square feet.
Wait, 45, repeat that?
4,525 square feet. An increase of 808 square feet in the 2-acre zone at 11 Parish Lane, map 31, block 11, lot G 25. All right,
So the garage increasing building coverage to 108 square feet.
let's let Dan explain exactly that in the speak form.
Sorry, what was the question?
The garage is increasing building coverage to 108 square feet.
The garage addition is increasing the total building coverage to 808 square feet over the currently allowable.
So is it already over the currently allowable? Like how many additional square feet is that?
We're adding, the current building coverage is 3165. The expanded building coverage that we're adding is 1360, which is a total of 4525. The currently, based on 2-acre zoning regulations for the 1.133 acre lot, we would be allowed 3717. But if it were a full conforming 2-acre lot, total building coverage would be almost 5,300, would be 5227. So over the existing, we had approximately 500 square feet of available coverage that we could grow with the non-conforming size. And where we started with this, basically the clients came to me with a program there. You can see the existing elevations. They've got a 2-car garage that's kind of attached to the end of the house, right in the front and center of the house. The way the program's laid out, bedroom wing on one side, family living on the other with the garage. And they wanted to, they had a few program requirements. They're a growing family. They've got 2 kids, 3rd kid on the way, more kids probably on the way after that. Nice Irish Catholic family. They've got 4 bedrooms right now, 2 on the 1st floor and 2 on the upper floor of the main house. One of them is an office right now. The other 3 function as bedrooms, 1 for them, 1 for the 2 boys, 1 each for the existing 2 boys. They're looking to expand. They are also going to be, both of them are working parents, so they're going to have an au pair. So they're looking for an au pair suite as well. They wanted a family room out of this. They do have a living room, but they wanted a family room, playroom for the kids that's close to the kitchen and close with an earshot and eye shot of the kitchen. And they didn't like having the garage like next to the kitchen and right up against the front door. So that was a design consideration. So with those program items in mind, we did look at a couple of different options of trying to keep the garage where it is and expanding to get the 3rd-car garage. Going up a level, we would still be able to get the extra bedroom on the 2nd floor, but we wouldn't be able to get an au pair suite out of it. Doesn't really solve the garage issue. Plus, there's existing conditions on the back side of the house. It's not on the survey, but if you're looking at the floor plan of the house of either existing or proposed, the top right corner of the plan, in that corner is where all of the utilities coming into the house currently come in. There's electrical panel, there's HVAC equipment, their water line comes in there, the generator line, everything's coming into that corner of the house. So we were trying to not reinvent the wheel and stay away from that corner of the house, which led us to a design solution of putting an adjacent structure, tying it into the existing building, but creating a catty corner garage addition that effectively had a mud room and powder room with the stairs up to the upper level and a small storage room. And this layout effectively helps us solve staying away from existing utilities, so we're not doing that. Keeping the playroom, family room close to earshot, eye shot of the kitchen, which is You know, it's the way they live, it's they, you know, they wanna be able to keep an eye on the kids. And then on the second floor, it also gives us the ability to go off the existing structure. If you're looking at the proposed second floor plan, the main square volume of the second floor over the existing house, that is existing footprint, no change there. It's that bedroom number 4, that's the pop out as a dormer condition off of the existing that would allow them to get 3 bedrooms for the boys upstairs. And then over the garage, that's effectively found space over the garage. We wouldn't be building the full footprint of the garage, obviously a really good footprint, but they're looking to build effectively an au pair suite, a bathroom and closet and a single bedroom / living area for an au pair over the garage. We looked at options, and well, I'll go back to the original option, but if you look at the proposed elevations on A201, the third to last or second to last sheet, what that does is the existing volume is that large primary gable on the front end of the house. That's going to remain, and the dormer condition on the side helps to break up that volume and adds to the right side of it, giving them their bedroom. And the garage ends up balancing the left side addition with the right, creating a wing off of the right side and still keeping things proportional. Our fear was that trying to, in some of the initial schemes we talked about, was going up over the existing bedroom wing, which is to the left. That's where there's a current master bedroom, closets, bathroom, and an office in line. But to do that, we would have had to reinvent the entire program at the bedroom level to introduce stairs, and that would have added a very tall element to the end here that just didn't seem to balance architecturally.
Which end where?
To the left side, over there, to get the second story over that. We couldn't go over the existing living room. The existing living room is the low roof area right there, low roof area facing the front with the chimney in the back. The reason we couldn't go over that is that existing living room is a full cathedral ceiling going up, so an additional 3 or 4 feet up, which means if we were to go above, the level above and the roof line associated would have been even taller than the existing primary gable on the house, which just didn't make sense. So there were, you know, after trying many schemes, we came down to this solution where gives them the 3-car garage. It respects the setbacks and boundaries of the property and stay within all setbacks. The scale is appropriate to all of the rest of the neighbors in the area. The owner, Sean Curley here, he's had conversations with all the adjacent neighbors. They all except one gave him full thumbs up on it, and the one that didn't is, we just didn't hear from him. And the reason that could be is after I did all the mailings for the properties, 2 of the properties are all in trust. So they might not even be the owners living at the properties, it could be renters, so we don't know. But of the, you know, probably 8 or 10 neighbors that he did speak to, it was a big thumbs up on it, everyone thought it was a good plan.
I have a question, I have some questions.
Sure,
Go to your first thing,
yeah, the survey,
the one that's in the survey.
yeah,
That portion that's shaded over the corner there in 35, I can't quite read that. Is that portion in the setback on that side?
portion of everything that we're proposing shaded is inside the setbacks.
I think existing though, it is slightly over the setback.
Oh, that portion, I'm sorry, the existing is, yeah, that pre-exists on the current owner, that was, they bought it in 2014, 16,
Is there a variance?
16. No,
When was the house built?
probably in the 50s.
So there, I mean, there isn't, when I searched, I didn't find a variance, but I mean, it's existed for more than 3 years, it's legally non-conforming. If, you know, if it's been like that since you bought it in 2016.
And you're not expanding on that area?
No, we don't want to because the whole septic system is on the left side of the house. And they just replaced it because the septic system was failing, so they just replaced it with a 5-bedroom septic.
So it's the only new footprint, the shaded area?
That's the only footprint. Right,
Correct.
that's right.
I think you heard us on my second application, you know, generally, you feel like the garage is necessary use, but I can't remember. Three car garage. But we have to grant a minimum amount of relief necessary to allow someone, reasonable use of their property. So. I mean, I've often said sometimes no garage, well. Then a 2-car garage, sometimes like we we're saying, you say no finished space above it, there's a reason for that. But the 3-car garage at 800 square feet, well, footprint coverage is a pretty big garage for being over your
Yes.
allowed coverage. So,
But again, we have a hardship here in the fact that our lot is almost half the size of what the allowable zoning coverage is in this area.
correct.
If you were to do the calculation based on a 1 acre zoning, we'd be conforming.
Correct, but the hardship step 1, and let's assume that that gets you past that, which it may or may not. Because otherwise someone could always come in and say, well, my lot's undersized lot, I can build on it, and that's being on an undersized lot and not getting up to the cover. The maximum coverage on a non-undersized lot is not a per se hardship. The second question is, assuming you can get past that step, then we have to grant. Then we don't have to grant it, we're limited to granting, a jurisdiction is limited to granting the minimum amount of relief to allow your reasonable use of the property. Like if someone comes in for a pool house, we almost always find a pool house, it's not necessary, that's like a clear example. We have to limit what we grant stuff to the hardship, to address the hardship.
Otherwise, we're starting to do spot zoning.
Correct. Otherwise, doing spot zoning, if you're not allowed to, we're supposed to do.
So if it's standing garage, let's say, was 24 by 20.
That's the last architect, and I
Yeah.
believe that's standard, we usually allow, that's my house has, it's like a pretty standard size for 24 by 24.
We wouldn't care what's on top.
Even if we didn't care what's on top, there only goes 22 feet on the second floor, so maybe it's not as big an
Yeah.
issue with the second floor. Like I'm saying, that maybe, I don't.
Yeah.
I think that's much easier there, but with other people on this board that are gonna have decided, maybe you don't really screw that board. They're gonna have a problem with 3.
This is Jessica Carden. I share Luke's sentiment. I think where there are aspects, well, it may have been maybe the most aesthetically pleasing design to go in this direction. And while you do have the cathedral ceiling, it does sound like there are other areas where you could have built above the existing structure to gain some of the features that the homeowners are hoping to incorporate into the design while still avoiding the need to add coverage, a substantial amount of coverage. Obviously, your proposed addition doesn't, it does use some coverage that's available on the lot. It's just that you're asking for a substantial portion that exceeds what the lot is. And despite a claim to an undersized lot, to me, that is not fully justifying a hardship at this point.
Just to be clear, we did explore adding the program to the first floor and we pared that back so that the connector between the garage was as de minimis as possible, which is the mudroom that you see there. And the program did move up to the second floor, which is the second floor proposed plan that you see of adding a bedroom up there. So we did try to relocate things up to the second floor that made sense in a programmatic manner. I mean, you're not, it would be, quite frankly, silly to try and add the program over the bedroom wing to satisfy what we were trying to do here on a completely other end of the house where it doesn't really work with the rest of the flow of the existing house. We would have to reinvent the entire floor plan to satisfy that requirement. And we thought this solution, while yes, it's adding square footage in terms of coverage, was the most reasonable in terms of scale and presentation of the house to the site, to the neighborhood, and trying to keep it as de minimis as possible.
If you added like a standard size garage and it's detached, that'd be you have 552 available variants.
Mhm.
24 by 24 garage is 576.
Right.
So really, if you just did the detached garage, you just did it connected another way, you can have like the breezeway between the two, or the mudroom or whatever it is. there's almost no variance you get, it's 18 square feet.
Mhm. We understand.
That's what I'm saying, so it's like. The argument is necessary, to go this much over. You could have done everything you wanted, plus, but you lose the breezeway, you have a two-car garage.
Understood, but again, you couldn't do everything you wanted because there were programmatic elements that the client is looking for. In addition to just the garage, which had to do with the family room, the mudroom, all of the other accessory components to this that add to that connector piece.
So I think, without speaking for the other board members, and I'd certainly like to hear also from Christie and Cynthia. The challenge we're having is we understand what the homeowner wants. But we really need to, we're in a position where we can only grant enough to provide relief so that they can effectively use the property based on the hardships they have. And where people are struggling is, where's the line? Right, so I think that what you're hearing from some of the board members is an openness to a variance. But they're struggling with where the line is. And the 2 cars versus 3 cars is one thing I'm hearing. And how much of an ask in terms of square footage is the second thing, just generally. It's not objecting to their program. But, you know, that's where what their program is not a hardship. That's their desire, which we understand because we all have them. But for this board, it really comes down to granting enough relief to address the hardship that's present on this property and not going beyond that.
So to your point, I think the characteristics and the existing conditions of this property are extremely important for you to weigh. For example, if this property were, it's in a 2-acre zone, if this property a 1.7 acre lot, which would be non-conforming and would give us the right to come before you for a variance because it is non-conforming, right? And it's smaller than zone, therefore there's technically a hardship. We would be in conformance with this size.
But
But let me finish. The size of our property, like I said, it's 1.1. It's almost half of the allowable zoning. So the hardship in itself is providing an obstacle to satisfying a reasonable solution here.
well, Dan, again, I'm speaking generally just to illustrate the point. We've seen sites where they're substandard size, and when you take into account the setbacks, you literally can't build something on them.
I know, I live on one of them.
So, what, and so we've granted relief in that case. In this case, we have an existing, I think you said it's 4-bedroom house with a 2-car garage. So it's not as if you don't have a functioning property as is. So
But
I struggle with this as the hardship.
But where does the line end of what's reasonable or not reasonable?
Well, no, I don't, well, that's what the board is debating, but the fact that you have an undersized lot does, in this case, does not show that the lot is not usable, or that it is not, you know, that in effect, the zoning is taking, because of the coverage requirement, the zoning is taking the homeowner's ability to use the lot. It is clearly it's restricting their ability to do what they would like to do otherwise. And, you know, the neighbor, it is in keeping, I would concede, what they're talking about is in keeping with the neighborhood. There are plenty of big homes in the neighborhood. But
The rule is that there has to be an exceptional difficulty that established that because of the fact you're unique to the property, literal enforcement of zone regulations will cause an exceptional difficulty of any character. And then in looking at that, like John was saying, you've had lots that are so narrow, that you can get anything on. But and no one can make use out of it. We're not allowed to look at personal preferences in building a lot. Under building a lot, that's not something we can consider. We're not able to look like financial, whether it be worth more one way or the other. We can't look at those other personal preferences. That's beyond our jurisdiction. Like our jurisdiction is very limited.
Understood.
Christie, Cynthia, any? Do you
I
want to chime in?
I have to say, everything that you said, I have to agree with. In terms of what we're allowed to decide and what we're not. There is 551 square feet available based on the numbers that you've given us. Is there some way to take the 3-car garage down to a 2-car garage?
I mean, of course there is, but that was a client request. Sean, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but
Well, I mean, might as well, I don't,
Come up and introduce yourself for the.
John Hurley, homeowner, thank you for having us in here, so, I think that the need for the garage is similar to that last meeting, it's. We can't even pull a car in, it's so old that you can't even walk by it, so if a car is in there, forget it, you literally cannot get on any direction. Around the car, that's number one. Number two, I don't know if it matters, we have 3 cars and not one of them is ever in the garage. So the garage is essentially useless. But we like to use it. We like to make it a kid space. And what Dan's referring to in the program is, sort of separating church and state. We want the kids over there, okay? They have no playroom, they have no place to hang out. And that's why it sort of has to be on that side. And we just had hoped that if there was an au pair, there would be a straight shot from the garage. Can an au pair walk outside? Of course, he or she can, but we hope that it just have a little cover to connect. So that's sort of where we're at.
to your point on depth, we currently have an overall outside depth of 27 feet on the garage. We could probably get that down to 25 feet or 24.5 feet and still get the clearance on the inside for a Suburban and still have space left over because, there's a shed on the property that he's looking to get rid of. That's currently storage. So they're trying to get rid of that, but that's
over on the left hand side of the property.
But that has to go somewhere. So
Is that coverage calculated though?
no, it's under 200 square feet. So
That still counts as coverage. Even though you just don't.
yeah, I don't know.
It's an 8 by 10.
I mean, it's all supposed to count for coverage. so-
80 square feet.
But it just has a lawnmower and I love
But I'm
it.
always saying, we get rid of that, it gets down, see, the problem we have here is if you way bigger action. I can remember slide. So if it's a smaller ass because you're getting rid of, like, so instead of being say
Yeah.
100 square feet, you knock another 80 off that is. So the question was, if your calculations already account that it would be knocking 80 square feet off, tearing that down.
I would have to check with RKW. I would assume they covered it since they know what they're doing into the Class A2 survey. I was going off of their numbers for total building coverage. But like I said, we could easily get rid of that and contribute towards the number. We could make the garage slightly shallower. We'd like to keep, we could finesse the mudroom in that area to be slightly smaller, but there was a goal of trying to keep some level of storage and a powder room and all that program in there.
The other thing is, I don't know if it matters or not, but there is no, in going to the shed, there's no storage, there's no room for anything. And with these boys, they all have their own little car now. Oh my God, the garage is full on one bay, the other one, you can't even put a car in it. So it's part of the reason that third bay is needed is for all the stuff, the lawnmower, the kid stuff. And now we finally have a place to park a car. At least get one of the 3 in there.
And there's almost no basement in this building. So the only basement that exists, you can see where the stairs are in the existing floor plan in the middle of the plan. The door that's open to the top of the stairs, that's going down to the basement. And the basement at the bottom of those stairs is a single room that's about 12 by 15. That's it. It's a mechanical room and a small fitness area. That's it. So it's storage and spaces at a premium for them. Obviously, we can't take it for additional basic.
This is Rich Carrington. Again, right now, I think it is, I would have a problem with whether it's 24 by 24, 25 by 25. To get a two-car garage, you know, whatever that comes out to, we determine. That means the top shrinks, you know, your program shrinks on top.
No,
No.
It's not about the 20 feet.
Doesn't count as covered.
No. but it's
Okay,
not-
so- Yeah, you're right. So basically, you're just losing a bed, a car bed.
I think though that they're gonna have to. Well, it's your application, you can do what you want. But if two people vote against you, it's done.
Yeah.
Like you need 4 in favor.
Understood.
And there's obviously reservations here. So essentially you're gonna have to actually move at some point, either move forward with it tonight or like come back with revised plans. So essentially now what people might be saying, might be thinking to decide to pursue the second option to try to bring us down, and like when you come back with revised plans, you might wanna take into account, or you could proceed tonight, but.
Christie, any thoughts you want to add or?
That hasn't already been said.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, the 3-car garage, if there's a way to shrink that footprint, so that it's not quite so large, then I think that would help a lot.
Yeah, can I ask a dumb question first time?
No, that's all right.
To the board, is it more important that it's not 3 bays? You know, if we were to get rid of that little causeway, I mean, is it the 3 bays? It's driving over. So to Dan's point, if we brought in, if it wasn't 27, was that 27.2, and that became whatever 25.
Yep.
And at least we could get a car in there, and brought it down to a more reasonable overage, or I don't know how you guys use the terms. Is that something? Because the 3 bays, for my wife and I, is actually really important because of all of our junk. The shed goes away, the kids' stuff goes away, the cars can get in there. You know, more important than the stretch, you know, so if there's a way to shrink the garage a little bit to get within a number that's comfortable for you guys, is that something?
Well, you have 552 to work with. And if you took the shed down, that gives you another 80, so that gives you what 632 to work with before you have to start worrying for variance. Anything over that, you're gonna have to establish it's necessary, and 3 cars, even somewhat smaller, it's still gonna put you, I think, significantly over that. I mean, maybe if there's a way for you to get rid of that breezeway card down, maybe that'd help you, but we're looking kind of an aggregate number, I guess, even though we normally say no to more than 2 cars, but here, if you're within the number, it's not in our jurisdiction. If you have 15, if you, you know, it's just, we're looking at it when we're trying to do the minimum amount someone can like have a house be livable. We say 2 cars, because it's not uncommon, you know, yes, we have 3 vehicles in my house and one of them's always outside. That doesn't mean you can't use your property, it's like a hard ask. So if you could get the total number small, like how it's done doesn't affect so much as like the number of days.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're saying ultimately is the total number.
I mean, we always say 2 cars, because that's the second question, is there necessary use? And we've generally said having a garage, you can put 2 cars in. It's reasonably necessary in this town. We don't create.
But that was, you know, one could argue that was 5 years ago. Now,
Yeah.
3 cars.
I mean, 40 years ago, 1-car garage.
That's where I was, my neighbors, my question is,
What establishes acceptable?
It's not, like, as a person, know what I'm saying, when you're going over the square feet.
I understand that.
You have to establish a minimal amount to make it so that your property is usable, and not usable by you, but like usable in general, so if someone comes in, they have like special circumstances, like their mom has to come live with them or something like that, that's not a factor we can consider while we're all live in the town, we're very sympathetic towards it, which is why we volunteer here. We're limited in what we can and can't do, so oftentimes if someone comes in a situation like this where they know, I don't want to say they know, but it would be unlikely if it might move forward as opposed to like restarting the process, they might continue it and come back, and in that context, I think maybe you could pick up the square feet, getting rid of like the breezeway, maybe you could pick it up somewhere else. We don't, I don't have an opinion on how it's picked up.
Right, yeah, I think that where we are at this point, what I'm hearing from the board is they're uncomfortable with the plan as it's currently drawn because of the amount of the ask, the amount we're over. All right.
Understood.
I would say also that, I mean, I personally, it's really more the total coverage. So if we were a lot closer and it was 3 cars, I wouldn't make a deal over, big deal over 3 cars.
That's what I was.
But we're too far over to be able to justify that there's hardship. It is what we're struggling with. And so one way to do it is, to narrow the size of the breezeway, to bring in the rear wall of the garage, to go to 2 cars from 3, or 2 cars plus storage, or, how there are probably a million different ways, and that's why you hired Sean, a talented architect. But I think that we're.
They just swap footage, they take it out one place, on the other.
Exactly, so we leave that up to you, but your decision at this point is either, we vote on the application as it is, which you can certainly ask for, tonight, and you need, as Lucas said, 4 affirmative votes for your, variance to be granted, or we can table it till next month and you can take another look at it and come back with a revised proposal. That's certainly closer to what, is a smaller ask, I would say. And, okay,
No, we'll definitely do that.
okay,
We want to work with you guys.
appreciate that.
But I do go back to my original point, and this is meant with all due respect, because I'm on P and Z, so
Right.
I know what you guys are seeing from that side of the table. I think you have to absolutely consider the level of nonconformity on the lot. Like I said, if this was a non-conforming lot of 1.7 acres and a 2-acre lot, we wouldn't be here. We'd be within coverage. So the level of nonconformity is an absolute contributing factor to the size of the ask.
I would disagree, and for the reason that in this case, we have this is not like the only thing you can do on this house
Oh, no.
is a 1-bedroom cottage, right?
Understood.
So that's where we struggle, all right? Because otherwise, every non-conforming lot in town would be fair game for changing the coverage, changing all kinds of other things.
Mhm.
And then we've gotten into your territory of creating the zones, which is not what we're supposed to be doing.
No, understood.
So, I'm certainly happy to work with P and Z to come up with a better idea of how to handle, I mean, you go up to Harrison and the area over Richmond Hill, you've got tons and tons of lots that are undersized.
Mhm.
They come to us all the time, and maybe and it's not like it's one-off, so maybe there's a better way for the town to deal with this. But right now, this is the sort of the process we have in the consideration.
Is there a statute? I believe there's a statute that says I can't represent anyone in front of P and Z till I'm on the ZBA.
The only
Does it go
statute
both
defining
ways?
that, so the only statute that there is that a zoning enforcement officer for a town can't be on the ZBA.
No, there's another statute because I was told by the former town council I can't represent people in front of P and Z.
I checked with the council.
I'm
allowed to.
not aware of any statute that says that. I've never
Yeah,
had-
it's been an issue at this point.
I've been here multiple
Yeah,
times.
I don't think you can represent someone to ZBA and he couldn't represent.
No, I
someone
can't,
to
I
ZBA.
can't just use ZBA, but I can represent someone in P and Z, because that's where.
Oh, yeah, you can.
I'm
Sure you can.
not aware of any state statute that
Absolutely.
says that. I can.
You can't
confirm-
represent anyone. I'm sorry.
No, I can.
No,
I
that's
can-
my, the other board, 'cause I remember I was told this before.
I can confirm with town council, but I'm not aware of
Yeah,
anything like that. If you said you checked.
I think we should just remember.
I think I've been here, this is probably my 3rd or 4th time before you guys, and the first time I checked on this, because I've been on P and Z for 12 years.
Oh, that's right.
And the first time I was advised that it's not an issue, I have to recuse myself, I can't present to my own board. as you could present your own board. But as a member of the town, I can easily present to you guys.
Well, no, the exception why I was allowed that time to present to P and Z was because I wasn't representing anyone, I was saying something on my wherewithal. But I
So
said,
I'll
I'm not
double check.
representing P and Z here.
not representing, so I couldn't hear from P and Z because I wasn't.
I will double check on.
I was saying, I'm gonna double check.
Let's table that.
Yeah.
Okay.
A question, are we allowed to give guidance as far as when they go back and redesign as to how much individually we may be comfortable of them and over? It just, so then that, like, let's say I personally, I may be comfortable if they're over 300, just given the situation. Just like they have guidance, so we allow to state our own.
Well, I mean, I think we
I think
give,
what I heard was make it as small as possible.
Well, yeah, but you got
Yeah.
800, right? So make it as small as
I mean,
possible, but is that
I
one,
don't know.
or is that 700?
I don't know technically what it would be. It's a fair question. I don't know technically what it would be, but I would encourage you not to commit to anything because the alternative may be something you may meet the size requirement, but may have a different problem that you're not comfortable with. Right? So I think we give guidance as we did tonight about what's giving us angina. Agita, thank you. And, I can't talk tonight. What's giving us agita and so.
You're not a town.
No, it's not a town. That's right. So,
No, your message is clear,
Yeah.
and our instructions are clear, so.
Okay.
terrific. So just for the record, we're gonna defer this till next month and we'll come back and talk about it.
When do I have to have revised drawings to you for next month's meeting?
Preferably a week and a half to 2 weeks, or
Oh, yeah.
or there's not a deadline.
As long as it's say Friday. Yeah, that's fine. And we'll definitely do that.
Terrific. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for your time.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. We have to approve the minutes. The last meeting. Oh. Sign. Okay. All right,
There was still a second, right?
yes, okay. They didn't make you sign these. Oh, for Laura. Okay. But we have to approve. it.
So I read them. We
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay,
Go right ahead.
I read the minutes and I motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
Just before we vote on one thing, there was. Okay, this got corrected. There was a version of the minutes. Oh, we've got two here. The minutes that I saw had said. Garish Lane, we did not talk about last month, right? It was not brought up at all. So should it even be?
Well,
Was it
right.
We continued it because it was supposed to be on the agenda, but the applicant had asked to be continued to the next month, so that's.
And
what we
that,
said.
But it was not technically open. That's the only reason I ask it because the clock starts running.
So I
Right,
mean, either way, we were still within our clock because it got approved, because you have 35
Yes.
days from when it opens to close it, which we did.
okay, right, so. Doesn't matter one way or another. Okay, thank you. All right, so,
Okay,
all vote,
yes.
all those in favor?
Aye.
You can vote on that.
Oh, I can?
Yes. No, that's fair, that's fair. Okay, any other matters we need to talk about?
I guess only just some background information on the coverage issue. Planning and zoning has a provision in their regulations technically for allowing a lot to increase their coverage. If they deed restrict the height of the house, so you can go 140% of your coverage of allowable coverage if you deed restrict sections of your house.
Yeah, okay.
Which is what would be appropriate for this house, but we've been advised by our town council that that provision is illegal and violates state statute, because technically the Planning and Zoning Commission is supposed to, they're not allowed to alter their own regulations. That's why you guys exist. So essentially, P and Z for years has been allowing houses like that to exist and be built, but they were using a regulation that is essentially illegal. So that's why this is before you guys and is such a large ask, because P and Z used to approve stuff like that and we've stopped it because it's not valid. So just with some
But they
background.
did it for years. That's a big thing for somebody to
What
buy.
do you mean it's illegal?
Like,
Uh,
it violates state statute, so like, we're not, the town isn't supposed to violate state statute, so if you do, it's technically illegal, you're breaking state law. So, like, you're not gonna get arrested, you know.
Yeah,
anything
but so
that-
you're not allowed, the state is saying you're not allowed to restrict your height, but then
No, so-
get
Yeah,
more.
the problem is allowing more, P and Z is not supposed to be allowed to bend the zoning regulations, that's what you guys are for.
Okay.
And so it's part of the check and balances, so that's why.
So the height is irrelevant.
Yeah, it's.
But we don't have the ability to deed restriction on property.
You sure we
No, you could, that's-
did? It was just like the property,
We asked that once, we put a deed restriction on.
well, the conditions of the variance, like, they take you to the bathroom, they couldn't,
But that can be changed later.
Yeah, but you could ask for.
it's a deed restriction until it's changed.
So I mean, it's something to consider is, I mean, I could,
It's a recorded item, the conditions.
we could use that regulation that exists if the board wanted to, we don't have to, but you could use it as that,
I don't,
as guidelines. You don't
in
have
the
to, though.
years that I've been on the board, that issue has never come up,
Me neither.
right? It's never come up, and it was
That's
never
because it's
offered.
been for the last 15 years, I'm just explaining why.
No, because we get
it's
coverage
for-
asked all the time, we've had for the 10 years I've been on the board, that coverage ask. We get them all the time,
All the time.
all the time.
And it's never been a relief that was available to us.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm just explaining
Yeah,
why
no, I
this
know.
large ask is before you,
Okay,
yeah,
well, it's important.
But
just for some. context.
I would
don't know
be,
what you want to do with that information.
Well, it's interesting because sometimes I go by something that's being built. And I wonder how they got that little postage stamp property with this unbelievably large
Yeah.
home with no yard. And they have to be, you know, not within the setbacks. And I always wonder,
no, we
How
don't
some-
vary setbacks.
what's that?
P and Z couldn't vary.
They don't vary setbacks.
No, but I wondered,
Well,
how
downtown's like 10
things-
feet, isn't it?
It's 8.
Yeah, that's why, down in the quarter acre, it's only set as 8 feet.
no, but I'm just
but
saying,
then it's supposed to step
Yeah,
back
that's
Yeah.
that.
on the second floor, and you're saying it doesn't necessarily step back. Yeah.
okay, and then I see things come to us and I wonder, okay, why something like that is coming to us when I see other things
Yeah.
going on.
Are we off the record? Did we go on?
No.
We're still,
Oh, we're
no, this is
still-
still meeting,
Still, a minute ago, yeah.
but it's still recording and everything. I was just-
Okay, that's helpful, thank you, sir, I didn't,
Should we adjourn?
I think we should
I vote
adjourn.
adjourn the meeting.
I said.
all in
Jessica, are
favor?
you okay to adjourn?
Sorry, it's been a long day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.